Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Trek, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of the original series, The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, or Enterprise. Today, I'm looking at In the Pale Moonlight, from Deep Space Nine's 6th season. Or as I like to call it, that time Sisko gave the middle finger to the Prime Directive. This episode was requested by Matthew L., Lost Fan, Tony, The Radical 42, and Daniel O'Donovan. And it's also highly rated, so this should be interesting. I'm expecting big things. Thank you all for the suggestion, and as always, I'll do my best, and let's get going. We begin the episode with Sisko flubbing his personal log because he can't remember the stardate, and mentions it's only been 2 weeks before launching into a full-on confession about what he's done. 2 weeks ago, he posted the casualty list with Dax upset about someone on it, so Sisko comforts her and offers to look into what happened. But she says not to bother because the Romulans keep letting the Jem'Hadar saunter into their territory, so Bashir says they need to get the Romulans on their side. But Dax thinks it's pointless. Sisko decides he's gonna do it anyway, and into the credits we go. Sisko and Dax roleplay his pitch to the Romulans, and Sisko gives a pretty compelling speech, but Dax points out that the Romulans will want proof that the Dominion is up to something before they see them as a threat. The trouble is, any proof they have will be pretty hard to get to, unless you're a pro at that sort of thing. So they go bug Garrick, who is flattered but says it's a suicide mission. So Sisko suggests he use his contacts and call in favors, although Garrick says it'll be a very messy business, but agrees anyway. Sisko is woken in the night by Kira with news of the Dominion invading Beta Z, and apparently a combination of things led to it being incredibly easy for the Dominion to take. So Sisko goes to check on Garrick's progress. He was able to get some allies, but they were all killed for even speaking to him. But he says not to give up, and proposes they make up the evidence, instead of risking their necks to get the real thing. He points out Vreenak, a Romulan bigwig who is pretty anti-Dominion as it is. So if they can convince anyone, it'll be him. And if they can get him to agree to visit en route to meeting Weyoun, then they should be on to a winner. Garrick's plan is to obtain a specific hard-to-get piece of Cardassian recording tech and forge a meeting outlining the Dominion's plan on it, and show it to Vreenak. But Sisko says he has to check with Starfleet first. However, the guy they need to forge the message is about to be executed, so let's skip over the details of how Sisko got him pardoned, because now he's here. This guy sounds familiar, but I don't recognize any of his filmography. And he thinks he's been hired to make some sort of sexy holodeck program, until Sisko mentions Garrick and he realizes it's something a lot more serious. Later, Odo calls Sisko to report Tolar tried to kill Quark, and after drinking way too much, he harassed one of the Dabo girls, and when Quark tried to intervene, he got himself stabbed. The trouble is, Sisko doesn't want an official record of him being there, so he goes to talk to Quark and bribe him not to press charges. And despite how much fun he seems to be having, his terms don't seem that bad. Wait, hang on. Quark's shirt is the same as Sisko's cushions. How random. Anyway, Sisko stresses out over second-guessing himself and the decisions he's made when the next casualty list came in.
People are dying out there every day. Entire worlds are struggling for their freedom. And here I am, still worrying about the finer points of morality.
Garrick updates Sisko on the turbo lift, with the price of his supplier of the Cardassian data thingy being pretty illegal. But he stresses how they don't really have a choice, and Sisko goes to Bashir for the material, which he is not happy about, but he's not given a choice either, although he does plan to protest. The program is finished and features Jeffrey Combs in yet another Star Trek role, and with it satisfactory, it's transferred to the data rod ahead of Vreenak's visit, with Tolar trying to skip off, but Sisko stops him rather violently and threatens to execute him if his work isn't convincing enough. Garrick offers to snoop around Vreenak's ship while he's on board.
Just make sure you don't get caught.
And I'm not crazy, right? The front of the ship looks like a green Mandalorian helmet. Vreenak seems to know all about Sisko, but he's a bit of a pompous dick if I'm honest. Ew, this drink looks nasty. Anyway, he doesn't want to join the Federation because the Dominion is clearly winning, so Sisko says how much it would suck for the Romulans if they did win.
You'll find yourselves facing the same opponent on every side. There's a word for that. Surrounded.
Vreenak isn't convinced, so Sisko shows him the faked hologram, and as predicted, he wants to study the data rod, which left Sisko waiting for an outcome that wasn't favorable.
It's a fake!
Furious, Vreenak buggered off with the intention of exposing Sisko's deception, but 2 days later, Worf reports that a ship got destroyed, seemingly by the Dominion. So Sisko goes and punches Garak over a table. He killed Vreenak, which was his plan all along, as well as Tolar, who was a loose end, and a shouting match ensues between the two of them, with Garak pointing out that Sisko asked for his help because he knew he couldn't do the dirty work himself. Regardless of the means used, the Romulans joined the war, and now, all caught up, Sisko says that he can live with his crimes, and erases his personal log. Interesting. I'm not sure what I was expecting exactly, but it wasn't quite this. As you know, my exposure to Deep Space Nine is very limited, but with more time for my scripts this year, I was able to get some context for this episode so I could form a better opinion of it. Although, I'm still confused as to why there are so many Weyuns and which one appeared in this episode, but no matter, it's not critically important to the plot at this juncture. The framing device is one that's been used before, whispers, 30 days and the like, but I didn't mind it in this instance, and it was kind of on theme unnerving to have Sisko stare at the camera for the majority of the episode. My gut reaction to the story was I was expecting a bigger payoff because of the build-up, which was great, don't get me wrong, but I expected Sisko to kill Vreenak to prevent him exposing him, so to find out Garak did it instead was slightly anticlimactic. I mean, the events of this episode must have been huge for Sisko. He goes against every value and principle he's ever adopted, and full-on goes against the Prime Directive, and you can see him unraveling, both in the flashbacks and the framing device, as he gets sucked into the web of lies more and more, especially justifying his actions throughout, like, what I'm doing is a small price to pay in the grand scheme of things, but that small price still has big implications, especially for someone in Sisko's position. I just thought they would push it that extra step and have Sisko do a Janeway and straight up murder a dude, because she had the we're out in the Delta Quadrant excuse, and he has the anything to win the war excuse, which is exactly the mindset Vreenak said the Dominion were in. From what I can gather about Garak, killing Vreenak seems unsurprising. He spends the whole series flip-flopping and being sneaky, so it's great he's included heavily in the plot, but it would have been more surprising for Sisko to do the deed himself and really elevate the change in him throughout the show's run. The acting was really good in this one. Later, Avery Brooks definitely found his footing, as opposed to the early stuff. Maybe it was the hair, and they had a great script to work with, lots of build-up before the punch in the last 7 to 10 minutes, and feels like the structure of Duet in that regard. Also a very strong episode. There is one point I'm confused about though, and I had to go back and rewatch a section to make sure I'd heard correctly. Vreenak was furious about the trick Sisko pulled, and then 2 days later his ship is destroyed. Surely Vreenak would have told someone in those 2 days what Sisko did prior to his death. Surely the cat was already out of the bag. That's why I was expecting Sisko to kill Vreenak and his entourage then and there to stop the secret from getting out, but I guess Vreenak didn't feel like telling anyone about the blatant bullshit Sisko tried to pull. Regardless, it's a very strong episode. I see why so many people requested it, and I hope I did it justice. So there you have it. That was In the Pale Moonlight. If there's an episode of Star Trek you'd like me to cover, pop it down in the comments below, or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want to be assimilated into my channel. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and live long and prosper.